This video finds you in Kansas. Have you ever considered Uruguay? Welcome to part 43 of the United States might as well be 53rd world countries stacked up in a trench coat. Sometimes being mid can be an advantage. We've covered 36 out of 50 states so far, and I haven't come across a state as boring as Kansas. No pro sports, it's double landlocked, and has some of the flattest scenery you can find. All of that open field space, Kansas hates you if you have allergies. Kansas is also in the middle of the pack of the 50 states for most of the stats that I could find. You would think that that would help versus a developing nation like Uruguay. Well, you don't get to live any longer for being so boring. In general, you would live 2 more years in Uruguay than you would being born in Kansas. Uruguay and Kansas are also neck and neck on infant mortality, but Uruguay is smoking Kansas on maternal mortality rate. Kansas has some of the highest percentage of proficient adult readers of any state we've covered so far. And while 83% is not better than Uruguay, if we factor in how it's measured differently everywhere, I would say that that is close to comparable. Cost of living, on the other hand, is a different story. In Kansas, 66% of households are at or below 100,000, and that 100,000 is what you need to be one comfortable person. 92% of households make less than 200,000, which is what you need to be comfortable as a family of 4. Uruguay happens to have the second highest cost of living in Latin America, but with a median income around $1,900 a month, a single cost of living around $1,800 a month, and a $4,200 cost of living for a family of 4, that's actually not that much better. Until you realize you had to pay out of pocket for similar or worse outcomes at the hospital and take out a life path altering amount of student loans to be able to attempt to support a family of 4 in Kansas. Uruguay's universal health care and free schooling up to a bachelor's degree make a huge difference there. And it's crazy because if we take the scenery out of the equation, Kansas wouldn't have to do that much to distance itself from the outcomes of a developing nation like Uruguay. But Kansas is in America. And like most things in America, it will be a whole lot better without the racism. If we use the health data as an example, black children are double represented in the infant mortality rate. That speaks to an unequal distribution of resources, whether it's money to pay for the health services or the health services not being there to begin with. This disparity is also reflected in the incarcerated population. 1 out of 20 Kansas residents are black, but over 1 out of 4 inmates incarcerated in the state of Kansas are black. Long story short, Kansas hates black people. And we can point to redlining being the reason the schools don't have money. Underfunded schools lead to less college and employment opportunity and therefore more young adults in jail. The issue today is that American capitalism has grown way bigger than to be able to sustain on the oppression of just people of color. Don't get me wrong, in a country that most citizens have always been closer to being a homeless person than a billionaire, it's not that it could never have happened, but the introduction of private prisons and for-profit social services really widened the net for who could get caught up and effectively shipped off to a labor camp based on committing a crime related to having a lack of resources. If Kansas wants to be competitive with a developing nation like Uruguay, correcting the systems that disproportionately affect its black residents and are slowly but surely making their way to the rest of Kansas is a non-negotiable. Put your city or state in the comments if you want me to do yours next. We are covering all 50 states with this series. Shoot me a follow if you want to see when I do yours.